Hey everyone, welcome back to a Cozy Christmas podcast and this week's reading for our Cozy Christmas Book Club. And again, if you just happen to come across this video, we're reading Christmas by the Book by Anne Marie Ryan. And this week's chapters are chapters 8 through 14. And we get the continuing drama of what's going on in the bookstore as far as the financial difficulties the store is facing. And then we also begin to see some of the books that have gone out into the world and the people they meet. And for a book that does not have magic in it, it's very much a real world novel, but there's certainly a lot of Christmas magic happening here in the sense of the right book coming to the right person. Yeah, let's talk about that first. And then I had a few messages come in and a few comments made that I want to share with you all. Right now, again, I have a different setup. I'm actually up in my son's old room. He's not using it, and he had these weird lights hanging on, so I thought I'd throw them on just to give it some color. There's a lot of white happening back here, and then got some Christmas books there, and then this space over here I can pop up cool graphics if I want to. So I thought we'd try this out. And who knows where I'll be recording next, because Thanksgiving break is coming up soon and I'm about to be kicked out of my room again. The plight of a amateur podcaster. What are you going to do? But all right, let's talk about this book, Christmas by the Book. I forgot the name of the title. I'll start talking about chapters 8 through 14. So basically what we have, they start out, they have to pick the 6 books to send out, which they do. And then, as I said, they are following, the story follows the books and where they head out. And I'm just going to check my notes here. So some of the books mentioned that we follow are A Child's Christmas in Wales, Twelfth Night, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I think she was at least reading that. Nora was reading that to the children. And then The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And what's interesting is at least 2 of those books I would not have considered to be really Christmas stories. They might mention Christmas in them, but I don't really see them as Christmas stories. Although, I think Father Christmas shows up in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and there's a few references to it, but that's about it. So I don't know. To me, I need more in my Christmas books than just a passing reference. However, when I put the question out there, what 6 Christmas books would you folks send? You guys gave some very, very good recommendations. So I'll talk about those in a little while. But they send out the books, and the storyline with Nora and her husband continues on, where the creditors show up in the store demanding her money. She can no longer hide it from her husband. She confesses what she did, was hiding this information from him. And, and he's hurt by it. He's bothered by it, but, he remembers the story of O. Henry, the gift of the Magi, which might be another one of the stories they sent out. And he realizes that this was done out of love for him. And so, he says, we're going to face this together. We can't hide this anymore. We've got to face this together. Of course, they have their big Christmas party that's going to come up. And they've got all these books sent out. They're really hoping for a Christmas miracle. So as we read through the book, we'll see what kind, if any, Christmas miracle comes their way. And I love how each story finds its way to the person who needs it. A Child's Christmas in Wales goes to a single father who's really trying to make ends meet, and he's not sure there's going to be a lot of presents this year for Christmas. And unfortunately, that's something I think many of us as parents can identify with, is that this fear that our economic status will be hit so hard that it could even affect things like Christmas time, and how special you want to make it for your kids, even if it's just a few gifts. and how more often than not it seems, there's Christmas miracles, and I love hearing the stories of those Christmas miracles. Twelfth Night goes to a struggling actor who's just about given up on his dream, and as he's reading it, he's remembering the joy that he had in performing Shakespeare, the love that he had for performing. We'll see how that impacts him. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I'm going to come back to that because that's really the storyline that I want to talk about. But then a Christmas Carol goes out to a businesswoman who's very Scrooge-like, and it sounds like that book is going to affect her in the way that Dickens intended that book to impact its readers. And so I love that the theme of this part of the story is, stories finding the people that need them, power of story, and the power that these Christmas tales that we read and love can still have on people. Now, I've never read A Child's Christmas in Wales. I feel like that's one I've heard mentioned a lot, but I haven't heard of that one. And I'm sure it's a classic, but I might need to fix that and read that this year. And Twelfth Night, I've actually read, although I really struggle with Shakespeare, and I'd much rather see it performed than read because I really struggle with what they're saying. And somehow just the visual component really aids me in that. So I might have to maybe find a good dramatization of Twelfth Night. But let's talk about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But yeah, I want to talk about the young man named Harry and his storyline. He gets The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was one of his sister's favorite books. But she recently was killed in a car accident or a hit and run accident. And his life is he's a young man, he's hurting, he doesn't know how to grieve. And he gets this book and he thinks somebody is playing a cruel prank on him. I love this scene. I remember loving it when I first read it, and revisiting it, it still to me remains one of the most powerful scenes I've read in a long time in a modern book. It's on pages 156 through the end of the chapter 162. And what it is, it's Harry just standing before the grave of his sister, talking to her, expressing his feelings, communicating it. And he says how it's going to be weird without you at Christmas. I think just repeating what so many people have felt when they've lost a loved one and those big special holidays come around, that it's those times that hurt, and it makes Christmas difficult and painful at times. And there's really nothing you can say or do to make that pain leave. It's there. He is tormented by the last moments he had with his sister, where they had a fight and he yelled, "I hate you" at her, and now he can't take that back, and she's gone. And this, I think, is just one of the most raw and authentic scenes here when it says this on page 158. Now that Emma was gone, Harry missed her constantly. It was a dull ache that would suddenly flare up with a stab of acute pain when something reminded him of her, which was like all the time. Harry tried to keep his defenses raised, but grief didn't play fair. It would creep up on him unexpectedly, and then pow. He found himself wanting to tell her things, even just stupid things, like how Jason Kelly had started going out with Melissa from her class, or that Mr. Hanley, the geography teacher, had got a very bad hair transplant, or that the cat next door had had kittens. Then he'd remember that she was gone, and sadness would snatch his breath away. That was why he started coming here to talk to her. He knew it was weird. People at school would think he was an even bigger freak than they already did if they found out he was hanging out in a cemetery talking to a dead person. He knew Emma couldn't answer him. Knew it was just her body down there in the ground. And then it goes on. But I just find that so true about grief, that you can just be going along and then it suddenly just hits you out of nowhere. And you don't intend for it to disable you, but then it does. um, this young man needs help. And if you are in that situation, I hope that you can have someone to reach out to talk to. I think you'll find that many people understand that process, even though it feels like, you're going through it alone. I think people really, I think a lot of us do. Although we don't know exactly what you're feeling, everyone's feelings are different, but many have gone through similar difficulties and have had similar thoughts. But I love that scene, and I love the way that the author just writes it with such authenticity. It's heartbreaking, but it's genuinely powerful. So the final chapter we read, where we leave off this week, is chapter 14, where Simon goes to talk to his parents to try to get a loan to help save the bookstore, and they pretty much shoot him down. So he's left really worried about what's going to happen next. And then we are met with the businesswoman named Sam, who was given um, a Christmas Carol, and as she's waiting for the train, her laptop dies. The battery doesn't get any signal on her phone. She's out. She has no internet access. She has nothing to do. For a bookworm, this is like our greatest fear, is being caught somewhere without a book. Whether you read on your phone or an iPad or a Kindle, whatever, um, you know, we don't have our story with us. What are we going to do? But fortunately, she had a Christmas Carol, and she's going to begin reading it. We'll see how that impacts her in the chapters to come. We'll see what Simon and Nora need to do next. All right. I promise these weren't going to be very long, and I've already made it super long. A couple of quick things here before we go. I had asked for some rutabaga recipes. I'd never have had rutabaga before. And Angela left one on the Facebook page, which sounds really good. It's called Swede or Rutabaga Nutmeg Cake. I love nutmeg, so I might have to try that out. That sounds really good. Thank you, Angela. And she left some interesting sounding books that I haven't read before. But her 6 books that she would send out into the world, I think she has some great choices here. She would send out Little Women, which is not a Christmas book, but it's a book set at Christmas, at least in the beginning. And I did say it didn't have to be a Christmas book, so we'll let that one slide. But it has a very, I think, a very important Christmas scene right in the beginning chapters of the story. But definitely, Little Women as a whole is a wonderful book to encourage and change somebody's life with. So yes, Little Women, A Christmas Carol, of course, good. The Night Before Christmas, and then she mentions 3. One is The Man Who Invented Christmas, which we all read that earlier this year. Which I think that would be neat stories or nonfiction to send out to someone who can read it and realize the impact that one story can have. I think that could change someone's life. And then we have 2 that sound really interesting. One's called A Frontier Christmas. Now, Angela, you have to let me know who wrote that, because I looked it up and I saw several books with that title, and I want to make sure I find the right one, because I want to read that. I think I know which one you meant, but just confirm. Let me know the name of that. And then another one she said was good is one called Sherlock Holmes and the Christmas Demon. So color me interested. My experience with Sherlock Holmes is funny because I don't really care for the original stories. I mean, they're okay. And I appreciate them for what they are, but I actually like stories about Sherlock Holmes written by people other than Arthur Conan Doyle, which makes no sense. But some of my favorite Holmes stories are ones written by other authors. So this one would be definitely one I would like to take a read of. Is that a word? A phrase? I would like to read it. So really great choice. And those 2 especially I might have to read probably sometime this next year. And honestly, I might throw these suggestions into our pot to be selections for upcoming book club titles. I think they're good. And then Donald J. He has a great choice as well. He had A Christmas Carol and The Night Before Christmas and The Man Who Invented Christmas and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. He would also recommend The Gift of the Magi. It's a very short book. Well, it's not even a book. It's a short story. Um, but you could send out the whole collection, or because O. Henry stories are really just worth reading. They're fun, they're funny, they're emotional. They teach some good lessons. A lot of good stuff in O. Henry stories, or the short story itself. It's really at the heart of this novel. Um, I think what helps motivate Nora and Simon. And then he also mentions the Polar Express. So more geared towards a younger audience, but I know there's a lot of you out there who enjoy reading the children's literature and children's stories. I know you're out there, and these make just great things to have laying around your house at Christmas time. Oh, the Polar Express. Open that book and just look at the illustrations. I have an interview I'm doing with two different authors coming up for the podcast that have written children's stories. That the pictures alone are fantastic, and then the stories that go with the pictures are just phenomenal. All right, and then I've listed some as well. A couple of mine that differ. Of course, I'd be sending out A Christmas Carol, and yeah, I'm going to send out Mrs. Claus and the Santa Land Sleighs. Um, it is such a great book, and it's a great series. That would be fun for a mystery lover. I'd send that out. I would send out A Boy Called Christmas. This is in our list of books I would love to read with the group. It's by Matt Haig. It tells an origin story of Santa. And then the sequel as well is excellent. The Girl Who Saved Christmas. And then Santa Claus is for Real by Charles Edward Hall. He is the man who's played Santa at the Radio City Hall Christmas extravaganza thing for years and years. And he writes a story of how that playing Santa saved his life. And there's just a little bit of like magical realism added into it just for fun. It's a very unique, um, it's a very unique memoir, but I really, really loved it. And then that's going to be in our reading group as well. And then, oh, there's so many good books to read. And then I mentioned more of a young adult story or children's story. It's called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson. That is a hilarious story. If you have ever worked with kids in a Christmas program, you're gonna love this story. It's a lot of fun. I read it aloud to my kids a few years ago, and we just loved it. So a lot of happy memories there. Well, so it's not too late. If you have six Christmas books or six books of any kind that these would be my choices that I would send out as gifts to random people. And then let me know. I'm looking at some of the discussion questions that there are a number of great characters in this story, including Sam, Olwyn, Will, and Mateo. Discuss some of their backstories and whether you connected with any in particular. One I really enjoy is the David Langdon character, and I really can't talk about that yet because there's still a lot of his storyline yet to unfold. But he's a fascinating character. And then, as I mentioned, Harry, I think, though he's a child character, but his story is one that I find really moving and really just elevates this novel for me from and both David Langdon's character and Harry's both uh, just kind of elevate the story from good to great. It's I can't say more without giving away spoilers, but keep reading. It'll be worth the read. So I hope you're enjoying this. Let me know how your reading is going, what you think of the story so far. If you've ever eaten rutabaga on purpose, things like that. And let's keep the conversation going in the comments. If you are watching this on YouTube, please jump over to Facebook if you're on Facebook and join us in the conversation there. We are at the Cozy Christmas Book Club Facebook page. It is a private page, so if you want to join, just go ahead and send the request, and I'll try to get that to you. I don't get on free as much as I should, so if it might take a couple of days, if you think I've forgotten you, send me an email at cozychristmaspodcast@gmail.com. I'll add you. So, all right, until next time, take care, happy reading, and have a very Merry Christmas.